Hey listeners, welcome to Straight Wife Trans Life. I'm Lisa. Some of you may be familiar with the movie The Family Man, where Nicolas Cage plays a character who is offered a glimpse of what his life could be like had he made a different decision. He's not happy with this glimpse, and Don Cheadle, the character who made it happen, explains to Cage, "Well, you're working on a new deal now, baby." And those of us who are spouses or partners to a person who is transitioning, we're working on a new deal. And it is permanent. This isn't a glimpse. My point being, before you tell other adults about what's happening with your spouse or partner, you need to reach a place where you can accept that this is reality. You two also need to agree that it is okay to share this transition with others. Have you had enough time to process the change? Are you and your spouse or partner ready for this next hurdle? Okay, let's talk about telling friends and acquaintances about a spouse or partner transitioning. First, there's a basic question. Do you need to tell anyone that your spouse or partner is transitioning? Absolutely not. Your call. It depends on your situation. For example, I have a friend in her 90s. Yes, the number 9 90s. She's very sharp and moved closer to her son, about 2 hours away by car. We still chat, and when she asks me how my husband is doing, I say he's great, all is well. What good will it do to tell her that he is now a she? It might confuse her, or she'll make one of her sassy, quick-witted comments, which I love. Either way, she does not need to know. But there are cases where you want to consider it. For us, there were 2 reasons to tell others as needed. First, my spouse was physically beginning to look different. Weight loss, makeup, clothes, breast development, how she carries herself, how she styles her hair. And second, we wanted to prepare families with kids or classmates of our son that we are often in touch with, so they wouldn't be caught off guard if their child came home and said, "My friend says his dad is now his mom. Can you explain this to me?" And that was a possibility because when we told our son that his dad is transitioning, we made sure he understood that it isn't a secret, well aware that we may have to deal with some curious or concerned parents or strangers in the future. Which leads me to a key point. Preparation. Figure out what you want to say and keep it simple. Think about the who. Who needs to know? Who am I sharing this with? Also, your friends or acquaintances may have questions down the line, so as if you didn't have enough to consider, think ahead about what you might be asked and how you might respond. I want to share a really helpful phrase I learned after watching the National Geographic documentary titled Gender Revolution, A Journey with Katie Couric. It's available on Disney+, and don't forget to check your library. So, one of the people Katie Couric spoke with was Sam Killerman, the author of A Guide to Gender, the Social Justice Advocate's Handbook. He said, "Gender is who you go to bed as. Sexuality is who you go to bed with." And the light bulb went off for me when I heard that, because I didn't quite understand at the time that gender and sexuality are separate. So I'm learning. So make sure you do your homework so you have good answers, and feel free to use that phrase. Also consider who is going to deliver the news, you or your spouse or partner. For our part, my spouse told her friends, I told my friends, and as the more active parent when it comes to school or planning the social side of things in general, I told most of the people we interact with together. After you've done your homework and you feel confident that you can explain your situation in a concise manner, you need to think about the actual delivery. How are you going to deliver this message? Most of us know how our friends or acquaintances prefer to receive and digest news, whether it's face-to-face, a phone call, email, maybe even a WhatsApp message. But let's hope not. This is too big for that last one. I actually had to fact check how I broke the news to one of our favorite families and was reminded that I did it via text, informing them that we had a great time yesterday and there's an email waiting for you with some rough news. In hindsight, that doesn't sound great. But in my defense, I was scared at a similar level to how I felt telling our son. And my spouse was scared too. This was the first family we told, and we really enjoy spending time with them. Sending that note made me so nervous that I actually deleted it. I didn't know at the time that it might be useful for a podcast episode in the future. So, our kids go to the same school, get along really well, and the parents are wonderful friends. It is the dream combination that you never want to lose. So we were scared because you can be ready to deliver the news, but are you ready for the reaction? Will your friends reject you because of this? And then that becomes, do I want to be friends with anyone who doesn't accept this? And this is how our friends reacted. Thanks for sharing the news. This doesn't change how we see your spouse. Still the same person. I cried. I was relieved, and we felt grateful that this family we respect so much was even cooler than we already felt. And to top it off, they took the time to explain the situation to their kids because a few weeks later, their daughter actually referred to my spouse using she and her female name. I was still fumbling between pronouns at this point. And I'm making it sound like getting out there and telling people isn't that big of a deal, but it really is. It is awkward and tiring. There are moments of frustration that I'm even in a situation where I feel like it is time or I have to share the news. And then I snap out of it because I do want to support my best friend, my spouse, who just wants to live a normal life as her true gender. But again, you have to be ready to share and to explain as needed. My best example of awkwardly stumbling through telling other adults was the birthday party our son was invited to, where two families knew about my spouse's transition, but nobody else did. So about 6 additional adults that were there. We were 9 months into the transition, and I was honestly hoping that my spouse didn't want to join me at the party, but she did. And I'm not going to hold her back. But internally, I was thinking, no, not today. I just want to avoid the need to explain the transition today. So, the people who didn't know about my spouse's transition were on one side of this large room together, and we made it awkward by standing off to ourselves. My spouse was looking at her phone with her arms crossed, not inviting, no eye contact. So I decided to bite the bullet. I walked over to the group of parents. All of us knew each other but didn't interact outside of school. And I said, hey, so I just wanted to give you the heads up that you may have seen my husband at school in the past. Well, this is her first party as a she. And I just wanted to let you know that nothing else has changed. We're still a family, and don't hesitate to ask me any questions. And this isn't verbatim. I was nervous, but I said something to that effect. And then I called my spouse over to come say hi. And let me tell you, it was terrifying and awkward because I don't know how anyone is going to react. I'm just trying to make the party pleasant for everyone, and I know where the exits are if it gets uncomfortable. But, and this is something to remember when you're scared, people will surprise you. This group of women swooped in and welcomed my spouse with open arms. So much so that they sat at a table together when it was time for food, and I sat at a different table, happy that she felt included. And the world keeps spinning. They say hi at drop-off and pick-up at school and ask how she's doing and how I'm doing. My spouse will pick up our son at school with no problems. And really, it shouldn't be a problem. It's just that the concern regarding how other people might react can sometimes feel heavy. And we need to get past that for ourselves and as a society. So allow time for reaction. Be okay if someone distances themselves or help them understand the changes. I was expecting to have some negativity when we told friends and acquaintances, And so far, we've had 0. Maybe they talk about it behind our backs, and that's fine. But nobody has made us feel bad or been rude about sharing the news with them. After I told a friend, we went to lunch and just chatted about all of it. It was just what I needed, and I was really touched by her empathy. Another friend offered to take my spouse shopping, and yet another friend saved clothes and bras for my spouse to try on in case she didn't feel comfortable going into dressing rooms. And these are female friends, but I want to give credit to my spouse's male friends. 4 of his closest friends in the area, who he has known since before I came into the picture. These are heterosexual men married with families. They don't care about the change. They still meet up for beers at their favorite places. They ask questions, but they aren't making this a big deal. And again, isn't that how it should be? By the way, I am planning on having my spouse join me in the next season of this podcast so she can share her own perspective and stories. So let me just run down some of the key things to consider when you're telling a friend or acquaintance that your spouse is transgender. Does that person need to know? Who are you telling the news? Preparation. Figure out what you want to say and keep it simple. Who is going to deliver the news? How are you going to deliver it? Allow people a chance to react. Be okay with the outcome. In the next episode, I'll talk about telling family about a spouse or partner coming out as transgender. Until then, keep on keeping on.